It's Ultimate Options time again. We're going to talk about strike prices. Andy Tanner here. It's good to be with you, and of course the great Corey Holiday. How you doing, Corey?
I'm doing great. How are you?
So it's going to be you, me, Corey, the three of us. We're going to talk about strike price. And again, this is in the review section. So if you understand what a strike price is, go ahead and skip this lesson. If you want a review of strike prices, come here. If this review isn't comprehensive, go back to your 4 pillars of investing and go in detail. You can always go backwards and take a step backward to take 2 or 3 steps forward. So this is, again, I want to emphasize this is a review, right? We're going to emphasize it's a review, and we'll talk about strike prices and how option value works with that. Just a quick disclaimer, as we always do, this is risky stuff. Practice on paper. We are in the role of educator right now. You don't even have to trade options. You don't have to, you don't even have to buy 2% milk. I'm not even going to tell you whether to buy 2% or whether to buy whole milk. I won't even tell you what expiration date to look at, but I will tell you about how those decisions are made. So this is about education. Anything you want to say on the risk, Corey?
Yeah, I would, in terms of risk, it's always about your personal situation, your risk profile. So it's kind of an individualized question, not something that we can give advice to the masses on.
Nor would we. Yep. We want to keep it legal.
That's right.
We hear this phrase, keep your options open. Hey, just in case something happens, this is just in case thinking. Options give us choices in the future, just in case. Like I buy insurance just in case I get sick. I buy car insurance just in case someone, plows into me. I buy home insurance in case some neighbor kid is playing with matches. So you can remember from our discussion, a quick review here, that, the farmer right here, he would very much like the ability or the choice. He doesn't want to get committed to it, but he would love the choice to sell his wheat, at maybe $6 per bushel. He would love that. I don't know if that's how you spell bushel, but that's how I'm spelling. And he'd like.
I think there's only one L, but I could be wrong about that.
Hey,
Close enough.
I'll give you L. I'll give you L. People give me L all the time about my inability to spell.
Yeah.
If you can't spell, you're going to catch L. All right, there you go. And this company over here, they might make a promise, right? They might make a promise to buy at $6 a bushel, 1L. And for
can I buy a vowel?
Yeah. And so they're striking a deal at this price, right? They're striking a deal right here. That handshake, any country, any language I've ever been to, someone tries to welch and say, hey, dude, you shook on this. Hey, we had a handshake, man. That's a promise. We shook on this. I thought we struck a deal right here. Let's strike this deal, right? We strike this deal. And so this right here is called the strike price, right? That's called the strike price. Is both are in agreement that he might sell it at 6 and he might buy it at 6. And, he's going to do this just in case, just in case the price of wheat goes down, he wants to be able to sell it at 6. So if the price of wheat is at 3, he wants to make sure, just in case it goes down to 3, he wants to make sure he kept his option open where he could sell it at 6. So option gives you power, right? They give you power.
Give you power, give you the ability to control price, control your prices. You get to have the choice to do something at these levels. And that's a very powerful thing. When you think about insurance contracts, it's the same concept. We're trying to control price so that if I have a house, I'm not willing to allow that to burn down the full value and lose out on that. I want to control the price so that if something were to go wrong, I get this value back, and I'm willing to pay a smaller amount of money for that control, that just in case.
Yeah, I can't control whether I have a fire. I can't control whether the wheat crop is bad. I can't control the price of a stock, but I can control where I can buy or sell at. And that's why I can't imagine trading option or trading stock without a knowledge of options. I can't imagine it. I mean, in the whole reason that the stock market is so risky is these prices move beyond our control. And so by having a just in case mentality and being able to lock in your price, who wouldn't want to do that? So the strike price is what you strike the deal at right here. The premium is what you pay. You know, that the money changing hands is out here. The amount of money on the contract is the strike price. Okay. So it's very confusing sometimes for new people because they get these confused. You know, the amount of shares, 90 days. I mean, look at all these numbers on here. So the one we're talking about here is the strike price. And that's the one that is on paper, man. That is the one that won't move. You know, the market price of the stock might move. The premium you pay can be negotiated back and forth, shaving the spread and changing as things happen. But on this piece of paper, once that strike is in there, that's not going to change ever. So I might start learning some jargon here and start learning the language of investing, that if Corey and I are speaking to you and you say, hey guys, I've got the 30 strike call, then I know you have the right to buy that stock at $30. Give one to me, Corey, and see if I can translate it.
Yeah, I own a put strike price at 50.
That means
the 50 strike put.
That means you have the right to sell that stock at $50. Okay, let's try another one. Hey, Corey, I've got a call at $10 strike.
Yep, you have the right to be able to buy that stock at 10, no matter where it goes.
You give me another one.
All right. If you, again, with a put, I own the 80 strike put.
So if so now I'm going to make this so he can sell at $8. So when Corey and I are talking as friends, as people who are familiar with this language, I might say something like this. I says, you know what, Corey, I've been looking at Facebook and I decided to buy the May 90 puts. Okay, tell me what I just said. I got the May 90 puts.
Yeah, that means that he has the right to be able to sell Facebook stock for $90 per share all the way until May. At any time from now through May expiration, he can sell Facebook at $90 because he owns the 90 strike put.
So if I were looking at this contract right here and I was just talking to Corey in regular investing language, I was looking at this one that's here on the screen, I wouldn't read this whole thing out. I'd just say, hey, Corey, I really like the direction that old XYZ company's going here. So I decided to buy some calls, the $10 calls. I bought the $10 calls. So if I say, I bought the $10 calls, well, call means right to buy. Put means right to sell. So the right to buy will always be a call and the right to sell will always be a put. And here we strike a deal at, I've highlighted in blue, $10. So in order to trade options, there's going to be information that we'll need every single time. One piece of information we're going to need is what strike price we're going to do business at, right?
Absolutely. The strike price is the price at what you control. So the option buyer, remember that whether you buy a call or you buy a put, you have the choice to do something. But it is yes. a different choice. The call buyer has the right to buy, whereas the put buyer has the right to sell. And you'll notice when we use that terminology, when we said, I'm buying the 90 strike put, that's the right to sell. And if I had said I bought the 90 strike call, then that would be the right to buy at that price.
So to get good at trading options, we need to be able to know what a premium is. We need to know what a stock price is. We know what a strike price is and an expiration. At a minimum, even before we get into Greeks, I should have a very clear understanding as I go into Ultimate Options courses. The reason for this review is to make sure you're absolutely clear. If you don't know the difference between premium and a strike price, then we've bit off a little bit more than we can chew. It's time, and it doesn't mean you can't still pursue this course. You just have to go into your 4 Pillars of Investing course and review to where you have those down, right? You have to have those down. The price of the stock will move. as the market moves, but your strike price never will. Once we shake that hand, you've really got the right to buy this at $10. And if the price of the stock goes down to 6 or 7, you still have the right to buy it at 10. If the price goes up to, 50 or 60, you still have the right to buy it at 10. This is inked, man. This is going to change. Doesn't matter what the price of that stock does. Your right to buy it at 10 does not change. So important stuff. It's fixed. The strike price is a fixed price where the owner of an option agreement can trade those shares of stock. In this case, the fixed price is 10. No matter what that stock does in the market, you can always buy it at $10 over the next 90 days. This is called an option chain. And on the one side, I have some premiums, what they're bidding, they're asking for the call options. And on the other side, I have what their bid and ask is for the put options. In the middle, we have a strike. So if I wanted to buy and I wanted to buy this stock and lock in my price at 134, and I wanted to be able to buy the stock, which would I be interested in, Corey?
Yeah, so if you wanted the right to buy, you're going to be looking over there at the call options, and you're going to say, I want to lock in my right to buy the stock at 134. I'm going to be looking at that bid-ask spread right there. That's the highest buyer is at 298. The lowest seller is at 310. So if I'm buying the right to buy the stock at 134, if I want in right now, I have to pay upwards of 310. Hopefully I can get filled a little better than that, but that's the price I'm going to be looking at.
So what if you owned a stock and you wanted to make sure you could sell it at $136? What would you be interested in looking at there?
Yep. Then we're going to move over there to the puts, and we're going to be looking at the 136 strike, because that's where I want my locked-in price to be able to sell is at 136. And I'm going to be looking at the bid-ask spread there, saying, okay, buyers are at 208, sellers are at 218. I'm going to have to buy somewhere around those prices. Hopefully I can pay less than 218, but if I really want in, I got to pay the asking price.
Hey, if I really want in a guaranteed, I can accept their asking price right now. I can give them 218 for it. But you know what? I might say, look, most people are bidding 208. You're asking 218. The highest bidder you got right now is 208. I could put in a bid at the midpoint between there, the mark price.
Yeah, 213. Maybe 213 would be right at the midpoint.
Yeah, maybe
right
213,
at the mark.
And that would be the new bid, right? That would be the new high bid for that amount, right?
That's right. When you put in your order at 213, you become the highest bidder. So you'll actually see on your screen the bid changes, and it's your order. It'll change right there instantly to 213, and that's you. You're now the highest bidder for that option.
So that is that. So I can choose my strike. It doesn't need to be where the price is right now. So for example, if we were to look at this, on a paper example, right? Just if we were to draw a picture of this right here, okay? If we wanted to do calls, and today it was trading at 50 a share, I could certainly get the right to buy it at 50. But I could actually get the right to buy it at 40 or the right to buy it at 60. I get to choose that, don't I, Corey? I can choose that. And that's with the calls. On the puts, if the stock is trading at 50, I could get the right to sell it right at 50. Hey, I could also get the right to sell it at 40 or sell it at 60. Now, here's the thing. A premium is going to change. So let's go back to calls. Let's say the stock's trading at $50, and you and I say, hey, we'd like to lock it in at 50 in case it goes higher. We'd like to right to buy 100 shares of XYZ stock for $50 a share for the next 90 days. No matter how high it goes, we want to lock in our price at 50. And someone says, well, okay, if I'm going to do that, that's going to cost you some money. Now, it would be less if it were 30 days. It would be less if it were 45 days. It would be more if it was 120 days, right? And if we wanted to lock this in for 2 years, that'd be a lot more money. So the longer we want to lock it in, the more this would be. And this is called time value. And we're going to talk about this more in another slide here, another video.
Yeah. Time is money.
And so
anytime you're an option buyer, there's actually a cost, a time value component associated with that, right?
Yeah.
And so when you buy the rights to do something with a stock, use the insurance example.
Yes.
If I buy car insurance and I buy it for 2 months, well, that costs less than if I had bought a 6-month policy, which would cost less than if I bought a 1-year policy. And so it's the same thing here. We've bought for 90 days, so we have to pay for that, the ability to leverage that stock, to have the right to buy it for 90 days. There's a time value that we're paying out when we buy that option.
Yeah, there's also a likelihood. I mean, there's a likelihood of whether you're going to get in a car wreck, right? There's a likelihood. Well, we know the stock's at 50 right now. Whether it can get to 60, I don't know. So they might have, sell this. Well, they definitely will. The time value here, I'm going to write smaller because there's going to be less time value here. Even though the 90 days is the same, because the strike is further away from where it is today, it's less likely to hit that and find value. And so people are going to give it to you. Look, you can insure anything you want to. People will have a contest for a hole-in-one, and they say, we want to give a $10,000 prize. That would be very cheap insurance because the chances people hit a hole-in-one is actually pretty small. You know, and so the time value is going to be smaller here. It's also going to be smaller here. Okay, it's going to be smaller here because it's kind of built in. It's kind of built in. But here's the thing: if I can buy at 40 and today's 50, they're going to add this. They're going to take whatever time value is there, and they're going to add what's called, and this is important for this lesson, very important. This is in jargon. We're going to get into this. Intrinsic. How do you spell intrinsic? I don't know.
Yep, just like that. Intrinsic value.
Well, I hope we're recording this because if I get spelling something right, we want to have that recorded. So I hope our recording worked well. So
that's right.
Yeah, intrinsic value. And the intrinsic value in this case is really easy to figure out. If it's worth 50 and we have the right to buy it at 40, there's $10 of intrinsic value. So to buy this option, I know I'm going to pay at least $10 for the difference here right out of the gate. I know that. And then whatever the time value is, and we'll talk about this in subsequent videos, but it's important to know that's true. Now, for puts, it's going to be just the opposite, right? If I have the right to sell at 60, but it's only worth 50, well, that's pretty cool. That means
a good option.
Yeah, that means I could go out and buy the stock at 50 right now. I have the right to sell it at 60 right now. Boy, I'd make $10. Well, they're not going to give me that money for free. So over here, the intrinsic value. I'm going for 2 in a row on intrinsic. I went for 2 in a row on that.
Nailed it.
It's
perfect. Yep.
Value is $10 here. Think about it. It's very logical, isn't it? If the stock is worth 50 and you have the right to sell at 60, they're going to charge at least $10, but they're also going to charge you for that 90 days, whatever it is, that time value.
Little time value. Yeah, time value is always the highest for at-the-money options. Now, that doesn't mean that the total premium value is the highest. It won't be. It always moves where the total premium is highest in the money, and then it moves down from there. So it might even be helpful to throw some numbers where you might say, well, this one has $10 of intrinsic, but let's say the 60 strike over here is going for maybe $12 total, something like that. The at the money might be going for 5, and the out of the money might be going for 2. In other words, what we're talking about is the intrinsic value, that in the money amount, is going to cause that premium to be really high. The other two don't have any intrinsic value. They just have time value. Potential.
This will be the most expensive option because it's worth $10 already. You go out and buy that stock at 50, turn around and sell it at 60, it's already worth $10. So this is going to be the most expensive option. Let's put some numbers to it, but before we do, Corey used some jargon that I think was interesting. He said, the time value is going to be the most at the money. And what that means is right now the stock is trading, and I could say this, instead of 4, I could say, really, this stock is trading at $50. I could say that, couldn't I? So
absolutely.
So a slang or a way to say this in cool stock language, if Aaron and I are talking, instead of saying, Corey, the price of XYZ is at $50 a share today, so I think I will buy a put option that lets me sell and guarantee at $50 a share. That's a long way to say that. So what I'm going to say to Corey in language, everyday language, to say, Corey, I was looking at XYZ. I think I'm going to buy an at-the-money put. I think I'm going to buy an at-the-money put. And so an at-the-money put means I look at what the strike is at right now, and I buy the option that is closest to where the price is at. That's called an at-the-money option. In fact, let's do some of this jargon right now, and let's talk about this. So pretend that you are here with Corey and I, which you are in a way, and XYZ stock is trading at $50. So let's take away 4 just for the sake of this and emphasize that. Today, XYZ is trading at $50. So let's see if you can figure out which one is the at-the-money option. Well, it's going to be the strike price at 50 where they match, right? Very, very good. Now watch this. This stock has what we call $5 strike prices, meaning they're offering them in increments of 5. Up here, the next one might be 65. The next one down here might be 35, right? These are going in $5 increments. So we would say this stock has what we call $5 strikes. That's what we say. That stock has $5 strikes, meaning that the increments of our choices are at $5. So I could lock it in at 50, or I could lock it in at 45, or I could lock it in at 40, or I could lock my price in at 60 or 55. So watch this. Watch this. This is important. If the stock has some value to it, okay, right here we would call it in the money. So watch this. How many strikes? Right, when it has intrinsic value, if we get to brag about it, for example, call means I have the right, let's put it in green so we have a good color scheme here. We have the right to buy stock we have the right to buy stock at, let's say, $40. Well, the question Corey would ask is, can you brag? Can you boast a little bit? Well, if the stock is trading at 50 and you can buy it at 40, that's definitely boast-worthy, don't you think, Corey? I mean, you've struck a deal. If you can strike a deal at 40 and it's worth 50, that's worth bragging. So this would have...
Yeah, think about which one you'd most want to own. Would you like the ability to buy something lower than where it's currently trading? And of course, the answer to that is yes. I mean, if I can buy anything for less than its current value, then that thing has intrinsic value. It has some equity in it. That's exactly right.
Now let me show you. If I call Corey on the phone and I say, "Hey Corey, I got the $40 strikes on XYZ stock and it has $10 of intrinsic value." That's nerd, dude. I don't think I've ever said that. That's total nerd. It has intrinsic value. Intrinsic. See, the reason I call it nerd is I don't even know how to spell intrinsic. I'm 3 for 3 today, but don't count on it tomorrow, okay? You're a nerd if you know how to spell that, okay? I'm now in the nerd club because I've learned how to spell it apparently. So what we really like to say is if it has intrinsic value, watch this. If you want to be cool, which I don't know if I'm cool or not, but if you want to be cool, okay, the way you say this is you say, hey, this is in the money. That's the way we say it, man.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I'm $10 in the money.
In the money. Yeah, I'm in the money on this thing.
I'm $10. Hey, dude, are you in the money on your calls? That's the way you say it. Okay, I'm gonna try that. If you're taking this with a spouse or with your kids, turn and say, "Hey, dude, you in the money? You in the money on your calls? You in the money?"
I'm in the money.
So if you have, and we call in the money for short, ITM, in the money. So there's two ways I could say this to Corey in everyday stock language. I could say, "Hey, man, I'm $10 in the money right here. $10 in the money." Or there's another way I could say it, Corey. I might say, "You know what? I might say it this way. I might say, you know what? I'm 2 strikes in the money. 1, 2. I'm 2 strikes in the money. 1, 2. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Corey and I are going to ask you a question. So if you had purchased the 45 strike calls and on XYZ stock, okay, and Corey and I send you an email and say, "Hey, how you doing on that XYZ 45 strike call? How you doing on the XYZ 45 strike call?" See the language? How's that XYZ 45 strike call doing? And you'd say, "You know what? I'm in the money." In fact, what are you going to put right here? See if you can guess what we're going to put right here. What is going to go right here? If this is 1, 2 strikes in the money, then, if this is 2 strikes in the money, then this one's going to be what? Take a guess, Corey. What do you think I'm going to put right there?
That's going to be 1 strike in the money.
Let's see if I got it right. There's no guarantees I get this right, but there it is, one strike in the money. Now we know this one's at the money, don't we?
That's right.
The 50 is at the money. So here we're 2 strikes in the money. Here we're 1 strike in the money. Here we're at the money.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have to be right on the price. If the stock were trading at 49, you'd still call the 50 the at the money strike because it's closest to.
Yeah.
So at the money is considered to be the closest to the current stock price.
Now, when we're in Mentor Club is hard the first day because you're learning a new language, and we don't stop in Mentor Club to explain this like we're explaining it here in a class. In Mentor Club, it says, okay, so we probably want to go as far out of the money as we can, might even be 10, 15 strikes out if we want to do this short strangle to exploit a volatility crush over earnings. Let's see if we can even get 10 or 12 strikes out of the money on the put side, 200, and all that jargon happens. And if a person, and it's fine because you learn by immersion. After a while, you just pick up what it all means. So that's one way to learn it. The other way to learn it is to break it down like this as slowly as we can so we understand it. Now, if you go into the Mentor Club and you hear me say, yeah, I've got the XYZ 50 strike call. We're sitting here right at the money. We're going to do that so we can collect the most time value, the most premium. Now you're going to start to understand this language. So that's why this review is important. And if these terms are new to you, don't panic. Hang out in the Mentor Club. Keep moving forward. It's like anything else, it'll come to you. Review as often as you want to. That's why we're having a review here. Now, let's talk about 55. Let's go back here. Let's talk about 55. Can we brag about that? Can Corey and I go to you and say, hey, look, we know the stock's trading today on the market at $50. We know it's trading at $50. We can get this, $50 for this. But you know what? We got the inside track, baby. We got this thing locked in at 55. I know you can go out and buy it at 50, but look at me, man. I got this thing locked in at 55.
Why would you want to buy it in the open market at 50 when I could get it to you for 55? Of course, that's not anything you can brag about.
There's no intrinsic value. It's not in the money. It's out of the money. So that's 1 strike out of the money. Okay. If the price were to go up to 55, then, it'd be at the money. But right now, the at the money option is at 50, and 55 is just not where the stock is trading. So this is 1 strike out of the money. Of course, this is 2 strikes out of the money on a call. So this is language that you can study over and over again. It's just what we do. So I know it's a lot. That's why we go slow. And if you've learned this, have empathy for someone who hasn't. And remember, this is a review. If you got this, hey, go ahead, skip it, move on. It's opposite on the put side. Let's take the boasting test again. Today, the stock's trading at $50, right? It's trading at $50. Well, if you can sell it at 50, because a put, remember, is, what's the put give me? The put is the right to sell.
Right to sell.
Right?
Yep.
So let's put that in blue, maybe. Blue would be a good color. This is the choice to sell, or the right to sell stock. That's what the put is. That's the right to sell stock. So if you sell it,
you want to be able to sell high. Just as in the call example, we wanted the ability to buy lower than where the stock's at. When you own puts, you want the ability to be able to sell higher than where the stock's at.
If the stock's trading at 50, that means anyone can buy it at 50 and sell it at 50. But if you could buy it at 50 and then sell it at 60, you have the right to sell at 60. You have a pretty cool deal going on there. That is 2 strikes out of the money. And, of course, this gets pretty easy now, right? 1 strike in the money, in the money, at the money, and then this is out of the money and out of the money. So they flip, right? They flip on an option chain. You'll see that the further out of the money you go on the calls, the further in the money you'll get on the puts, and the further in the money you get on the calls, the further out of the money you'll get on the puts.
Yeah, and most option chains at your brokerage and other places will actually shade in the at the money or to the in the money option. So basically, all of your in the monies would kind of have a shading gray to them as a general rule.
Yeah.
And so you'd see those 45 and 40 calls kind of shaded in down there, and you'd see the 60 and the 55 puts up here shaded in. So it kind of helps you to quickly, when you turn to it, you can say, oh, these are the in the monies.
Or they'll draw a line that looks something like that, right?
Yeah.
There'll be something like that delineates it, and you always usually work from there and move out. So that is a little bit on intrinsic value or being in the money, or having no intrinsic value or being out of the money. And that'll take a little practice in Minter Club, but we often talk about in the money options, out of the money options, at the money options. We're referring to the strike price. How close is the strike price we're trading to the actual trading price of the stock? So that's strike price. Intrinsic value is the in the money portion of the premium. So let's practice this, and there's nothing like a good little practice. And let's use a little bit more of an odd number, like 91, okay? And let's see if we can figure this. So the stock price is at 91. And let's just see if we can fill these in before I hit the slide and give us all the answers, okay? So let's start with and pretend that this is a call, shall we? That these are, call options right here. So we'll say these are calls. So if you have the choice to buy this stock at 100, remember, call option means what? Choice to buy stock, right? So if I have the choice to buy the stock and I strike a deal at 100 and the strike price is 91, can I brag about that?
No bragging rights there. The ability to buy at 100 is worse than where you can get it in the open market.
So, that's not cool to brag about. I mean, I guess you could try. I mean, you could brag about anything, I mean, my dad brags about things that aren't cool anymore. My dad's like, check it out. I got my Glenn Miller album. Check it out.
Yeah.
Glenn Miller. It's kind of like Corey and his Barry Manilow. Hey, Andy, I got that Barry Manilow CD. See?
Oh, you got to love Barry.
I got Barry Manilow. I got my Neil Sedaka. Sedaka album going, dude. Check me out. That's really not really cool to brag about, right?
I could go for some Neil Diamond, though.
Neil Diamond.
Sweet Caroline.
That might go up in value because he's done, right? He's not singing no more. He's retired.
That's right.
No, but if you called me and said, hey, I got box seats at the Super Bowl, I'm saying, hey, my buddy Than Merrill, he says, Andy, come to it was Super Bowl 50 a while back. He says, Andy, come hang out with us Super Bowl 50. I was like, that's cool. You got tickets. That's cool. That's worth bragging about. But it's awesome. It's not worth bragging about going and buying this stock at 100 and having the choice or right to buy at 100 if the thing's, I'll say zero intrinsic value. How about this right here? How about 95? Anything better? Any bragging on that?
It's a little better than the 100, but there's still no intrinsic value.
That's your Neil Diamond. That's your Neil Diamond. Yeah. Here's Barry Manilow. Here's Neil Diamond. Neither of them are braggable.
We're getting a little closer, right?
We're getting a little
closer. And so we would call that one, though, one strike out of the money. Yep. And then the 100 was 2 strikes out of the money. So
but there's no intrinsic value on this.
No intrinsic value.
Okay, now watch this. It's trading at 91, but you can buy it at 90. Any bragging there?
Now that one's at the money, but we would also call it slightly in the money.
Yeah, it's
slightly
the closest,
in the money because
we'd say this is the at the money option because it's the closest one to where it's trading at. But it is slightly in the money, isn't it? How much intrinsic value is in this?
If there's $1 of intrinsic value there.
Yeah, if the price of the stock is at 91, but we have the choice to buy at 90, we've got it locked in at 90, we're starting, that's slightly braggable. Now, I wouldn't brag too loud, but you know what? That's, you got to brag on what you can, I guess. A little boasting.
We're getting somewhere.
How about $85?
And now we can really start to brag. I've got the right to buy at 85. Stock's worth 91. I'd say I have $6 of bragging rights or $6 of intrinsic value.
This is like going to Vegas and seeing someone decent, gotten tickets. I can brag about this. $6 of intrinsic value. If I can buy at 85 and sell at 91, I know I'm going to make $6. If I can buy at 90 and sell at 91, I know I'm going to make $1. If I can buy at 80 and sell at 91, I know I'm going to make...
You've got $11 of intrinsic.
$11 of intrinsic value. So without knowing the premium, I can simply get the stock price and the strike price, and with just the stock price and the strike price, I can tell how much intrinsic value is in this. Now here's what's cool. I can figure out how much time value. Now, the computers do all this for us, but it's a good exercise for us to get used to because the computer could tell me all this. But this is really good for us to practice, right? This is really, really a good thing for us to practice. And I want to just move something right here that's probably going to foul me up. Did I tell you it probably would? But watch this. I can unfoul myself up just as easily. So let's take a look now at how much time value is in this. We talked about the time value of an option. Well, we know that this option premium, they're charging, I gave it away. Look at that. I'll take it away. You got a sneak peek though. I know that this premium that they're charging or receiving for this option is $11.29. Well, if the intrinsic value is 11, and I know that the intrinsic value and the time value combined give me my total premium, because premium is really made up of intrinsic and time. Yep. I know that the time value of this option is 29 cents. I know that this one right here, the time value is 31 cents.
31, yep.
I know here that the time value is 78 cents. Right? Because 178 of it is the total premium. I know $1 of that is intrinsic, so the remaining 78 cents has to be of time. Look, I know there's of this $6, part of this is intrinsic and part of it's time. I know that. I know that the premium's made up of intrinsic time. So if I know that out of this $6, 6 of it comes from being able to buy at 85 and sell at 91, if that's where 6 of this comes from, I know that the other 31 cents must be time. If this is $11.29, I know that some of this is intrinsic and some of this is time. Obviously, if I buy at 80 and sell at 91, that is, if I can have the choice to buy at 80 and sell at 91, that's $11 right there. That other 29 cents must be time value. Now,
so if you simply take whatever that premium is for any option, you just simply subtract the intrinsic value. Whatever is left over is your time value, whether you're dealing with calls or puts. Once you subtract away the intrinsic, in other words, whatever's left over is the time value, like you've shown.
You know, you can't really boast about this 95 option. You can't really say, hey, I can buy this at 95. You can't boast about that. But you know what you could say? Well, you know, for 14 cents, I can lock it in for a month and see what's going to happen. You know, for 3 cents, I can lock this in and see what's going to happen. And notice that this is really, really cheap because this stock's probably not going to make it to $100 before expiration day. That's why they're only going to, you know, charge 3 cents for that insurance. Probably never going to get there. So you can almost tell the likelihood of this by how far out we get here. So this is how premiums work. And you'll see that as you go from out of the money, right, to at the money, pretty close to at the money, to deep into the money option, that these get pretty hefty in price, and these can go down to pennies.
Yeah, they're more expensive the further you go in the money. They're less expensive the further you go out of the money, and it's basically potential. It's the potential that you have. You know, when you buy an 80 strike call, you're very likely to have that option remain in the money. Now, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to make money trading it, because you might pay 11 and it could go down to 8, but it's probably going to finish in the money. Whereas the 100 calls, even if you pay that 3 cents, that stock could go up quite a bit and it could still end up out of the money, meaning the stock's at 91, it might climb to 95, but your 100 calls still out of the money at expiration and you still lose that 3 cents. So it's kind of that, it makes sense that the more valuable your right is, like buying the 80 is much more valuable than buying the 100, gives you a better right. It's more expensive to buy the better, more valuable option.
Like things in life, you get what you pay for is what we're saying. There's no way to sneak around this. You're going to get what you pay for. Hey, how much do you know about strike price? Are you ignorant of strike prices? Are you now aware of strike prices? You're starting to get confident. Where are you? And that can help you with your confidence to trade. Very, very important. Let's do a lesson summary. The strike price is the price the owner of an option agreement can trade shares of stock. That's the price we can make the trade for, that we have rights to. The option chain is just a table with this information on it. That'll tell me where the strike prices are. Jargon, we had, instead of saying this has intrinsic value, we said, hey, I'm in the money. Instead of saying this has no intrinsic value, we say, out of the money. If the strike price and the stock price are very similar, they're the closest ones together, those are the at the money options. At the money, that is not automatic teller machine. It is at the money, in the money, and out of the money options. Intrinsic value is the in the money portion. That's simple. If I can buy at 80 and the stock's at 100, I have $20 of intrinsic value. It's the in the money portion. I can boast about exercising my option. If I can, it does have intrinsic value. If I can make that boast, I can boast about that. If not, you got a Barry Manilow CD, man. That's it. Time value decreases as the strike price gets far away from the stock price. That's true. As we go further out of the money, it'll have less time value because it's less likely to get there. It's less likely to get there.
Less potential in the option.
Now, there's going to be a lot more to talk about. Always keep big picture. Are there details beyond this? Yes. Do you have to be perfect at this? No, because you're trading in a paper trade account and you're just learning. But this review on strike price, if you feel good about what you just saw and say, yeah, Andy, I got it. Corey, I got it. Then go ahead and move on. If not, very important, you go back to the 4 pillars of investing, spend more time in that, and make sure you're more clear on these from that class, because we make it very clear in the 4 pillars of investing. This is just a review. All right, Corey, anything else you want to say?
Nope. Great job. Great lesson.
Well done. Well done.